will ask Muhammed Chaudhry and Chaudhry Jasser what the American Muslim community needs to do to help U.S. authorities prevent radicalization right here at home.
ISIS has gained affiliates faster than al-Qaeda ever did. From nothing a year ago, there are now militant groups in nearly 20 countries that have sworn allegiance to ISIS.
Joining me now, Muhammed Chaudhry, the communications director for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and Dr. Chaudhry Jasser, president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Welcome to you both tonight. Chaudhry, I'll start with you first. You say there's only one way to fight extremism.
There is, and unfortunately, as much as some of the techniques Mubin talked about might be correct, he's missing the cancer. I'm a doctor, right? I treat the core disease. He's talking about symptoms. The core disease, the cancer, is political Islam. It's the identity of the Islamic State. That's why ISIS is so different than al-Qaeda. They've established the Islamic State. So until we begin to counter and reform the ideas that are the pathway to radicalization, right now, the entire whack-a-mole program of our Homeland Security is countering violent extremism. Until they change that to countering violent Islamism, which is the concept of the Islamic State, and until we start monitoring ideologies of jihadism, Salafism, the continuum prior to when they become militant, when they start to be separatist of the Saudi Wahhabi ideology, those need to be monitored, because those are the precursors that we can target in Homeland Security and acknowledge that we need to reform within the House of Islam.
And Muhammad, you say that Muslim leaders in America should be doing more.
Absolutely. And as a member of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the largest organized Muslim community in the world and in the USA, we believe we need proven models versus shallow theories by political candidates who want some free publicity. The three things we need: one is leadership matters here. Leadership matters, such as a leader, His Holiness, the Khalifa of Islam, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, has said. Our mosques, 16,000 mosques around the world, and 70 mosques in the USA are open to anything. If you want to come in, law enforcement, everyone who wants to come into these public places, they're open to you. Secondly, we need to counter this ideology with the true ideology and revive true Islam. We invite Muslims and non-Muslims to trueislam.com, where we have these 11 points we believe fundamentally attack at the core of the misrepresentation of Islam that ISIS is doing. And law enforcement has signed up, from chiefs of police in New Jersey to the chief of police in San Bernardino, as well as bipartisan congressional support.
But Chaudhry,
and the third point is inconsistent Muslim leadership. And that's where we sent out a letter to 2,200 mosques around the country to show them that here, join us. And we invite all Muslim leaders to join us. And if they're not, we'd like to know why, because we believe this is the antidote to save
I want to get you in here because we're not seeing a whole lot of evidence that that works. And there is problems with law enforcement working with these Muslim communities.
And you know, let me add in here, I think that it's interesting the vagaries of what he's talking about. I mean, Americans are intelligent. They want to hear specifics from Muslims of what we're talking about reforming. We need to condemn the concept of the caliphate, condemn violent jihad, to call for the equality of men and women, to call for the condemnation of Wahhabi Islam and the blasphemy laws and apostasy laws. Until we do those specifics, you're not going to take the air out of the Islamist radicalization. And, you know, what is true Islam? What is that debate? We put out a reform movement declaration that has 2 pages of principles that many of us signed. I mean, we need just like Alcoholics Anonymous, Muslims need an Islamism Anonymous in order to counter the ideology and talk about what we really need to reform. There's just too much vagaries for Americans to understand what the problem is.
And Muhammad, bring this back home. I mean, what are we seeing as far as the youth here in the United States and radicalization? What is the trend?
So what we're seeing is people need to understand true Islam. Just like Chaudhry, you can't become a doctor on Google. You can't represent Islam based on Google. You need to go deep. You need to understand leadership matters.
I'm a Muslim.
That having leadership in Islam matters, and not just a short list, but your list is incomplete. If you go to trueislam.com, there are 11 points like separation of mosque and state, like loyalty to your country or
Well, will
residents,
you
as
condemn
well as,
violent jihad and the
so there's
concept of the
multiple-
caliphate?
all 11
That's a good
points. If you look
starting
at all 11 points, you will realize that this is a proven model for 127 years. It has worked. It is proven around the world. So rather than shallow theories, we need to look at what works. And this has worked for 127 years in a worldwide community.
You can't defeat ISIS without condemning all Islamic states and condemning the caliphate. Full stop. Until Americans hear that, we are apologists for the problem. There's no other answers.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there.
Absolutely. Well, ISIS has killed more Muslims than Jews, Christians,
Islamic
anyone
State
else.
theocracy
ISIS is attacking humanity, and when we disagree with everything ISIS has
is a
said,
symptom of Islamic
everything
theocracy.
ISIS is doing, but
All right,
the
guys,
true
we're gonna have to
Islam
leave it there.
is the Khalifa of Islam that we need to join.
Important discussion and an emotional one, clearly. Thank you to Muhammad and Zuhdi for joining in on that.